Today I want to talk about floral crowns or halos that we're seeing. That popularity is out there and a lot of girls are wearing these beautiful, lush halos in their hair. And this isn't a new idea. This is something that's been around for centuries. Back in ancient Greece, we saw the laurel wreath, which is very similar to that. From the history of Ukraine, China, even Queen Victoria, we saw all of these wedding ceremonies that use some type of adornment on their head. We also saw it come back really heavily in the 1960s. This is kind of that hippie culture where they wear flowers in your hair kind of thing. But I wanted to go through just kind of a basic concept of how to create this, and it all really comes down to the mechanics. Especially if you have those boho brides or somebody that really wants that lush look. It has to be something that's going to hold together. It has to be something that's not going to have any sharp points or anything that's going to poke in their head. It has to be very comfortable to wear so they have a really good experience with this, and that's our ultimate goal with this. I'm going to start with two 18-gauge wires. Now the average head size is about 21 to 22 inches. I would suggest that you definitely measure their head so that you can get an exact size. If I go in about 5 inches on each side, so I have 5 inches extending beyond my 18-gauge wire, then that gives me about 22 inches. So I'm going to just take some floral tape. And I want to use a color that's going to blend in with the foliages that I'm going to be using so you can't see it. So we're just going to tape this. And of course with floral tape, the rule of thumb, you got to stretch it and pull it so that it adheres. And less is the best thing you can do. So don't use a lot of it. It shouldn't be really thick and heavy. It should be just stretched out nice and light. So come back to the other side. And then at this point, what I want to do is take some, just a plumosis, and it doesn't have to be a pretty plumosis because we're going to end up just binding it in. But if I just take some plumosis and I'm just going to wrap it around, just like so. I'm not going to finish this all the way. I've got one that's completed. I'll show you what it's like in a minute. And then I'm going to take, and I'm going to leave a little bit of that wire on the very end so that I can attach it into a circle. But I'm going to use bouillon, and I'm just going to wind that in and tie it in so that it's attached. And then incorporate that wire back into it. So I'm just going to start binding this. And by doing that, I'm just wrapping it around so that I get kind of a nice little circle of plumosis. And I just keep going down. And you can add as many stalks, pieces that you want to. It can be as full as you want it to be. You could do it with ruscus if you wanted to. So there's lots of different materials that you can use. I like using plumosis just because you get that softness. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. It's soft and tender. And that beautiful green color. So you go all the way down, you finish that all the way down to the very, very end. And then once you get to that point, we're going to kind of bring it around and we're going to combine it. So by combining it, all you do is just put two together, maybe give it a little bit of a twist, and then I come back with a little bit of the tape and just adhere that so it's there, and even use a little bit of the bouillon to make sure that it's very, very secure. And that's the important thing, making sure it's secure. So then what you end up with is this. So we've got a beautiful little wreath that is all done with plumosis, as you can see. And it's just really fine and it's really fluffy. And what I love about it is just the textures of it are just really fabulous. So the next step that I want to do is I'm going to add some ivy. Now, ivy is temperamental. That's probably a good way to put it. And what I like to do with ivy, if I want it to hold up, you go on the internet and find, this is what used to be called Johnson's Floor Wax. It's now called Pledge Revive It. And what it is just a liquid acrylic wax. And if you soak your ivy in that just for a few minutes, pull it out, lay it out, let it dry. What it does is it seals it all the way up. It actually makes it really pretty because it's nice and shiny, but it makes it hold up better so that it's not going to wilt right away, because ivy has that tendency to do that and we don't want that. So I'm going to take my ivy and we're just going to wind this through. And there's many products that you could use to get that fluffiness that you want. But now I've got another dimension, another textural layer. I didn't even attach it because we're going to come back and glue right on top of it, so it's going to stay put. If you find that you really need to attach it, then go ahead and use a little bit of bouillon and just tuck that in. So then we now we have another dimension to this, so that it gives us that volume. So let's start gluing. So I'm just going to use just one of the little pillows just so it's set it on. You can get a mannequin if you want to. A mannequin head works really well. And then I'm going to use some glue. Of course, this is Oasis adhesive. And I'm just going to start tucking this onto the back ends of, I have some eryngium here, and you want to cut the stems as short as possible without it falling apart. So the shorter, the better. Got some glue strands going here. And I'm also going to do some silver dollar eucalyptus. And I'm just going to stick some glue in. Now the glue, rules of glue. Let's go back to those rules. You've heard me say this many times. Rules of glue is that you have to glue to something porous and you have to put glue to glue. So I'm going to use my eucalyptus first and just come back around, and I'm just going to add this. So I'm going to put glue to glue, you touch it, pull it back, put it back on. So now I have glue in both places, and that's my objective. So I just want to place this around. You can put it together in groupings, however you want to do it. We can go back and get rid of those glue strings in a minute. Come here, you. And stick and attach. So however many eucalyptus leaves you want to put on there, and then I'm going to come back with my eryngium. And I love eryngium just because of the texture. So you kind of have to decide where is my front. And that way you can distinguish the better products or the bigger products that you want to do go into the front. Oh, I've got glue everywhere here. I also like to use just the little leaves just because that texture is fabulous. Glue to glue, stick it on there. Create my focal in the very front. And you let that glue just set for a minute just to get really tacky. And you've got about 4 minutes. So you can continue that all the way around. And then I'm going to come back with some daisies and tuck those in just to create my little focal area. They can go underneath, they can go above your foliages, however you want this to work. I'm going to come back here with a daisy and tuck you in. And I'm not going to finish this all the way, I've got one completed, but you can see you just keep adding it all the way around. Adding the products to the outside, because the inside is the dimension of the person's head that you're going to be adding this to. So you just keep going with all of this. And then once you have that finished, all the different materials, this is what you end up with. And so you've got just this lush green and colorful with the palettes of the blues and the yellows and the pinks. And just nice and full and lush, as you can see. And it's something that they can wear on their head. It's very, very lightweight. That's that framework that just keeps it light. And everything is glued. Now what I would do with this is I would spray it with an anti-transparent that would be like, oh, Crown and Glory, Finishing Touch, Pristine, anything on that order. And then bag it. Let it follow the directions on the container of the anti-transparent. Bag it, and then send some bobby pins with it. And then there you go. You've got your halos.